Oklahoma State has parted ways with former quarterback, longtime head coach, and even before then, the offensive coordinator, assistant head coach under Les Miles. Mike Gundy is out at Oklahoma State. We have been discussing, this is the, fourth Power 4 school now that has had a coaching change. It's September 23rd. And Mike Gundy, I didn't know it would come this quickly. I think we all knew it was coming. Robert Allen had the report earlier today, and of course, then everybody else started to get their information. We will discuss it at length, and also have both Sam Khan and Shahan Jararaja on today to discuss it as well. Before we get to the legacy, we have a graphic that kind of goes over all of that. Not a surprise. When I saw it, I was like, man, why today? Not Sunday or Monday or whatever, but he's gone. He's out.
He almost was out at the end of last season, and if not for some buyout math that I think they had to do, he probably would have been. So they apparently saved maybe up towards of $10 million by doing it now. But you could tell the writing was on the wall last year. I think all three of us were in agreement when all that went down. We said, like, you know, when you start, like, this is like saying we're getting divorced and then like, well, we're going to separate. And then you're like, no, we worked it out. And you're like, yeah, but you guys still don't seem happy together. And that's what it felt like. It was heading down this way. They have, in my opinion, the worst roster in the Big 12, and it's not even close, like, as how bad their roster is right now. And that's not been the benchmark of Gundy's 21-year tenure there. He's the greatest coach of all time in the history of Oklahoma State. And it's going to take somebody a really long time to fill those shoes to that level. But eventually things do become stale. And I think that Mike Gundy's time had become stale, and it was time for him to go. He was doing a lot more complaining than coaching, it felt like to me.
Yeah, I think the timing has kind of thrown everybody for a loop today, because just yesterday he's sitting there doing his customary press conference and fielding questions about the future and how are they going to turn this around, and just all of the concerns and everything surrounding the program. And so just figured that, hey, if it didn't happen on a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday evening or even a Monday morning, and here he is, it's another game week, then I guess they're just going to keep on rolling on along. And we all know where this is headed eventually, but I guess they're going to give him the grace of allowing him to finish out most of the season, if not all of the season. And I think everybody would have been okay for that, as much as it would have been like pulling teeth each and every week, because I don't think with him or without him, there's a lot of wins on the horizon for them. And Paul, you said that comment about their roster. I haven't really sat there and tried to stack rosters versus one another and make comparisons. I mean, I think it's very easy to make a case that Texas Tech has the most talented roster, though, if we're going to have that conversation. And when it comes to the weakest, I don't know, I'd maybe have to sit and stew on that a little bit. But I could believe it at first mention, because you weren't here yesterday, but I said on more than one occasion that watching them against Tulsa, I felt like those teams had switched uniforms. Mm-hmm. That Tulsa looked bigger, stronger, more talented, faster, better coached. It was shocking to see that. It was shocking. I got the radio broadcast for basically like the first half, and then full television viewing for like the second half. And so in the first half, driving through like little old Brownsboro, Texas on my way to my hometown, and hearing Robert Allen, who ends up breaking this story today as the sideline reporter, just at a loss for what to say. Just long periods of silence in between plays as Tulsa picks up another first down and another punt by Oklahoma State's offense. And you could just feel it then, and then for them to close it out the way they did with a loss. And yeah, just all of these questions swirling. It's not a complete shock that it happened. It's a little bit surprising, though, the timing of it. And it leads me to believe that maybe it was just even more tense behind the scenes than we imagined, where they were like, all right, we got this little bit of a pay cut now, and it's better to go ahead and wash your hands with 2 months left in the season and just be done with it than give him the goodbye tour, I guess, in their minds. So that's something I'm sure we'll hear more about. But, boys, this is the end of an era. Let's start there. I mean, this is the end of a dadgum era. I think it's the death of the old Big 12 in a lot of ways. When you think about at least who I grew up watching, the Mac Browns and the Bob Stoops and Bill the Mike Snyders. Leaches and the Bill Snyders.
Gary Patterson.
There towards the end once TCU joined. And, you know, you can throw some other names out there. Mike Gundy was the mainstay at this point of that old era of the Big 12. Like, he was one of those guys that was having the gimmicky offenses that everybody nationally was complaining. They don't play defense in the Big 12. Him and Leach and all these guys were responsible for that. Tons of great players rolled through those doors, a lot of big wins. And ultimately, it's about what have you done for me lately? And lately, the last couple of years especially, it's been really bad with not a lot of hope for a turnaround. And so I understand where Oklahoma State's coming from. Doesn't make it any less bittersweet for their fans, I'm sure. And, for even people like me that understand why they're doing what they're doing, even though I want some more blanks filled in just on the details of it all. But it is bittersweet for me, too, just knowing, damn, the Gundy era is over.
I didn't think about what you said until I saw Garrett shaking his head about the old Big 12 from back when it opened up in '96. Here is a kind of a graphic of his legacy. One, he was a starting quarterback at Oklahoma State. He started playing his freshman year, led the Cowboys to 2 10-win seasons. As an assistant coach, he was at Oklahoma State early on after his playing career, then at Baylor for a year. He was at Maryland, which I completely forgot about, for 4. And then when Les Miles took over, he became the assistant head coach, offensive coordinator. When Les Miles left for LSU, he became the 23rd head coach. And then you see some others, 8 10-win seasons, 12-6 in bowl games, 2011 Big 12 Conference champions. Oklahoma State head coach, the only one with 100-plus wins at the school. 4 of the last 15 games, though, they have only won 4 of those. The mullet, and, of course, I'm a man, I'm 40, which was in September 22nd, back a few years ago, not the 23rd, which is today, but Mike Gundy. There's different pictures. Well done, guys, Andrew, Brandon, and Garrett, to get that up in Mike Gundy's career, his legacy. Doug Meacham, by the way, the offensive coordinator, who's an offensive lineman at Oklahoma State. He also has been a coach there a couple of different times, including now, will be the interim. Baylor this week and then the rest of the season.
Just occurred to me in all this rundown. There are some schools that you can lose to when you are down. Like if they had lost to, let's just say they didn't play Tulsa last week, they played Tech. Okay, well, you knew that Tech was going to be better. But the first time losing to Tulsa in Stillwater since 1951, like the people on the board weren't, like a lot of them probably weren't even alive when that happened. And so that's one of those things like, well, we're losing to Tulsa at home on national TV. That's got to be it. And I think that probably that emotion of that is what led to it. And look, it sucks for Mike Gundy that it ends this way, but this is how it ends for most coaches long tenured. Most people don't get to do like Nick Saban and go out the way that they want to. You know, it's the old Dark Knight thing. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And that's what's happened to him. This feels like it's kind of what's happening to Dabo Swinney right now. You know, it's just eventually your message gets stale or whatever adjective you want to use. I know I've used that twice, but yeah, he was a great coach at one time. It's just not working for him
There's only
anymore.
a handful that have ever left on their own when they were at one school forever. Only a handful. But the Bobby Bowdens and the Mac Browns and others were shown the door. And in this case, so is Mike Gundy.
Yeah, it just was his turn, and it's very sudden, and yet not all completely sudden, because we have been sort of teased with this. Again, I think just the timing of today is like, wait, he was just talking yesterday at the podium trying to round up the troops to get ready for a big home game against Baylor and try to find a win and try to get a Big 12 win for the first time in a couple years. But then again, me saying that adds into part of why he's being fired. They haven't won a Big 12 game in a long time. There's not a lot of reason to believe they'll win many, if any, Big 12 games this season. And the program's just in a state of disarray from a talent standpoint that it's understandable for Oklahoma State to want to change. But, yeah, it's just kind of one of those days where a lot of history is just flooding back to me and thinking about the last 20-plus years where Mike Gundy's been the Oklahoma State head coach. I can only imagine what it's like for Oklahoma State fans. And I know a lot of them are going, it's about time, or we needed to do this. But they're also going to have that moment, if they haven't already, where they're looking back on the big win over Oklahoma in the final ever game between those two and how that was the parting shot before the Sooners left for the SEC, and all the award winners over the years and all of the draft picks and the Big 12 title appearances and
that offense that was so dynamic.
Offense that was incredible. Yeah. And just so many awesome moments. And you wish that there were more, and they're not going to be any more. I mean, this is the end of the road for the entire Gundy era. So there are people who are in their early 20s that's all they've ever known in Stillwater. That's the only thing they've ever known. Grown adults that now are going to see the second head coach they've ever seen in an Oklahoma State polo, which is crazy.
How old are you, Brandon? 25. Okay, so you were 4 or so when he took the job. Andrew, how old are you? All right, so same thing. I mean, you guys, when you were born, he basically was already on the staff. By the way, it also affects a lot of things. The transfer portal, 30-day window, not sure how that's going to work, how Doug Meacham will try to keep things together. But I do know this, that local high school player Jabari Thornton, wide receiver at La Vega High School, which is 10 minutes from here, a phenomenal talent. He, according to his head coach, Don Hyde, has decommitted. And he also then put it up just recently on his Twitter timeline. 2026, Caden Jones, running back, from the area, has been committed to Oklahoma State since March. He has 30 offers. He has also decommitted. I'm sure there will be others. I'm not sure about one of the younger player in the area, Lexington quarterback Case Evans, an Oklahoma State commit. I reached out to his coach, have not heard back from him.
Yeah, KD Jones. I think he said Caden Jones.
It's actually Kaydin. He goes by KD.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say he goes by KD. Yeah.
Now, names. I'm going to throw out a bunch of them. This is from various people who have tried to, again, say who's next. From the younger group, you have the G.J. Kinney, Colin Klein, Eric Morris, Ben Arbuckle, and Jeff Traylor. You also have Alex Golish, John Sumrow at Tulane, Golish at USF, Todd Munkin at Georgia. And then he was an assistant coach at Oklahoma State a few years back when Gundy was the head coach when they won a Big 12 title, I think. And Zach Robinson, the former Oklahoma State quarterback who was a part of the NFL, has been in the NFL as a coach since he was at Oklahoma State and then a part of the NFL, the league.
I would imagine with Jabari Thornton and KD Jones or Caden Jones and all of the rest of these guys who might end up decommitting here in the next few hours, next few days, that they've been expecting that a decision might need to be made here pretty soon. Yep. And they've, I'm sure, been told by opposing coaches who would like their services that, hey, Gundy's going to be gone soon, or hey, even if you commit there, Gundy's going to be gone. So they've already had the deal, I'm sure, with some negative recruiting with the way this season has gone. But now the floodgates open. The floodgates absolutely open to that entire class. And so there will be vultures flying in and swirling and circling. And I guess Doug Meacham will do the best that he can with that staff to try to stem that off as much as you can. But it's also going to be hard to do that when you don't exactly have a pitch on what the future looks like. Yep. I mean, and who the head coach is going to be. So it almost – I just wonder how much they even take that into consideration, because in the portal era, like, it's not about maintaining your class, especially if your class isn't like this complete game changer to begin with. Most people might be a little hesitant. Oh, you open up that portal window. Well, if you're going to fire the guy, you're going to fire the guy at any point. Maybe they're just like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and let's just bleed right now and go ahead and start to get our ducks in a row for what this looks like on the other side of things. But, yeah, no surprise that some guys are bailing already, and there will be more, I'm sure, as far as the coaching candidates goes. That's not a bad list at all to start off with. I saw a post already from one of the websites out there. It's like, the search is heating up. It's like, the search started 15 minutes ago. How is it already heating up? Like, I know we got to have some hyperbole in our headlines, but God, guys, like, he literally was fired less than 2 hours ago. How is the search heating up? But the candidates that you named off, I don't think any of those are real big surprises and are just the logical choices. If a bunch of other jobs similar opened up, that'd be a lot of the same names.
And Sam Kahn said he's been on the phone with a lot of people, but you were saying as well, these are names that different writers have put up. Zach Robinson makes sense. I saw his name even 2 or 3 weeks ago among some others. That doesn't mean they're interested and or they have been contacted, but they are some names to think about.
Sure, you got to have G.J. Kinney on that list. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's an obvious choice. So if just about any job in this region opens up, then I think you're saying, hey, G.J. Kinney's a name that you got to know about, and some of those others are similar to that as well. But Zach Robinson was the name that I know, when shout out to the guys at Pistols Firing blog, Marshall Scott and those guys. I heard them having a conversation about this, maybe it was a week or two ago, when the writing was starting to get on the wall that, like, hey, it might not happen soon, but it's going to probably happen. And they were kicking around names, and Zach Robinson was the one that seems like it's the sexy name, right?
Yeah.
The NFL offensive coordinator.
But I don't think he's kind of on the rise in the NFL.
No, yeah.
And so that's why, look, I did a top 5, Zach Robinson. I mentioned him in the top 5. He's not in it because I do think that there's probably better choices because he's not been a head coach in college. And I get it. I mean, like, he's an offensive coordinator in the NFL, but I think that they need to go for maybe more of a sure thing, which is why you'll see some of the names I have on the list. But I think any of the names that brought up make sense. Like Dana Holgerson makes sense if he wants to be a head coach.
Yep.
Yeah, but guys, is anybody going to get excited about that?
Yeah, but
Like,
that's the thing. Will he like Dana Holgerson's obviously at Nebraska now. He's got the connections with Coach Gundy in Oklahoma State, but is he going to fire up the base, the so-called base?